a lot of chokes and stuff in that area, but then the center of the map is pretty open. So it's kind of an interesting map.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Thrash. The greatest gamer in the world.
Oh, I thought you said thrash. I'm like, this isn't thrash music. What are you talking about? Yes, indeed. It is Flash. He himself, he, capital H. Beginning of sentence, middle of sentence, end of sentence, it doesn't matter. Capital H for that. Him. The one.
Flash is
He's the architect and Neo all in one. And Morpheus.
And the Matrix itself.
Yeah.
Now, Hyun, this guy has had a lot of success in StarCraft 2. He's back here competing in Brood War. By the way, this guy is probably the most charming professional gamer in all of Korea. This guy is hilarious. English, he's pretty fluent in English.
Yeah.
He's got a sense of humor. He knows how to laugh at himself. But he's very good. I do think this is, it could be very one-sided for Flash, but I think Hyun can definitely put up a fight. We're going to have a better idea, probably within the first 10 minutes, of where this game's going to go.
He'll have a plan. Like,
for
Hyun
sure.
will have some sort of plan that he thinks can do it, possibly, but, like, the thing is Flash will, like, open up pretty safely and then, like, have a bunch of Marines and medics, and, it's going to be hard.
There's a lot of dirty tricks that Zerg can use to try to just quick win against a Terran, but I feel like this is one of Flash's greatest strengths is that he pretty much doesn't lose within the first 5 minutes. He always gets to the point of game that he wanted to get to.
Exactly, and that's where his mechanics really kick in and take over.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like really hard for people to actually end up beating him.
So we'll see what exactly Hyun's got in store for us. Strategy-wise, I don't think he wants to play a normal game, though. I think you have to play around the strengths of Flash. Also, though, this is a big map. I think Zerg can definitely last in a macro game.
That's a good point.
Unlike Camelot, for instance, where I think there are some fundamental issues in mid-game TVZ, it seems like.
It is quite a good point, so maybe we will see a third base today.
Maybe. All right, guys, let's get hyped. This is Flash versus Hyun. Game number 1 in the round of 16 in the ASL.
So many people here today.
Yeah.
Flash is playing.
It's packed here in the studio. Yeah, that's what you get when Flash is playing. Introducing our Terran player in the bottom right. In the white, it's Flash.
White just like his jacket.
In the bottom left, in the red, our Zerg player, Hyun.
Red just like his chair. By the way, guys, we are back on twitch.tv/GSL.
Yeah.
So if you're watching from the ASL channel, I believe this is the last day we'll be using it. So you may as well migrate over or check us out on Africa.tv.
Yes, please. So do spread the word with your friends. We decided to put this back on the GSL channel since that's where the majority of our work here with our toasts and myself are at. So it's easy to find us all in one place. You don't have to hop through different channels on the internet.
Yeah.
We have the Overlord scouting northbound. We're going to see what direction the SCV is going to be sent in. And it's at this phase in Brood War, people have gotten more creative than even right before StarCraft 2 came out with scouting patterns to try to spot the Overlord.
Yeah.
Got some Flash support here. Thanks for coming down, guys. Hope you're enjoying the show.
Yeah, there's a ton of fans showing up tonight to the studio, and probably will be from here on out as the big names are coming out to play.
Yeah, we had some more sleepy days in the studio.
Round of 24 is kind of, it's like a pre-round.
It's like Code A or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So this is something that Flash oftentimes opens up with. Believe it or not, it's actually not always that safe to do either. He's getting his barracks on the low ground with the depot. He wants to get a wall in here so he can secure his base. Now, the truth is, if you were to get, like, let's say 4-pulled or 5-pulled, you can lose the game with this, but it seems like a lot of people just aren't going to do it against Flash.
Yeah, like if you go for something like a 4 or 5 pull, it's a 4-player map, right? So you're not only are hurting your economy so much by going for such an early pull, but you have to send a drone out as well. And it's like, what if they're cross spots? What if they made their barracks in their main base? Then it's not going to do any damage.
This is you can hard counter this, but it's risky and the odds are very low in your favor.
We call that a blind hard counter.
Yeah, blind hard counters.
That's I've yelled at quite a few nerds who have done things like that too. So they're like, well, I don't know, I guess you do this build and you did it, so I won. It's like, wow, that's pretty sick. You're so good. Like,
I guess I can't practice with you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of harassment going on here with the drone. Not a big deal, though. Full wall in here for Flash. A good position for that. It's a really solid wall. Look at that. The SCV juking and jiving around these Zerglings.
So the Lings are going to come in here and try to clean up the SCV. The one thing that the Zerg wants to look for is it going to be 3 hatches or 2 hatches before layer? Both are viable, but it gives you an idea of when the Zerg's tech is going to be operational. And the Zerg, besides speed Zerglings, which are a real threat to Terran if the Terran's exposed at all, really if the game doesn't pick up for the Zerg until it gets to either Lurker tech or Mutalisk tech. And I know that we have seen very rarely, for instance, like Jaedong do like a Ling Hydra rush.
Yeah.
That's so obscure and hard to do.
It's just not supposed to work.
We really kind of factor it out until we actually see it. It can be very strong, but it basically is supposed to catch the Terran off guard. And it doesn't give Zerg any real opportunities later on, so it's a crazy all-in.
Yeah, you're quite right. Like, you just have to get up to that layer tech. And Flash's SCV, of course, being kept alive long enough that he sees exactly when and where this third hatchery is, so everything is completely A-okay for him. He's, like, safe in every way, can get done exactly what he wants.
So, with a third hatchery up here, I think some people might look at this and be like, wow, Zerg's going into a big macro game here. Not necessarily in these positions. We'll see if he does drone up heavily, but you don't need a lot of drones right away with Zerg and Brood War. You can actually operate off of such a shockingly low number. I think a lot of StarCraft 2 Zergs will have a very hard time trying to adapt to this feeling.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest things is actually knowing when to cut off your drones with Zerg in StarCraft 1.
Yeah.
It's so not like Protoss or Terran or StarCraft 2. It's completely its own thing, the economy management of Zerg in this game.
And so that doesn't mean that you don't make a lot of Zergs. It just means you don't have to. So if he sees the third hatch, for instance, at the mineral location, he doesn't necessarily, Flash doesn't necessarily say, okay, this is going to be a macro game. So because Zerg needs to get either Mutalisks or Lurkers up, there's a phase of vulnerability for the Zerg. And so we almost always see one creep colony set up here, excuse me, at the entrance. And sometimes they don't turn that into a sunken colony until the Terran actually pushes out.
Well, these are close spawns as well. If he was in the top right, you could see him leaving with an Overlord and get a sunken up from scratch. This is one of the most important things. Like, if you start playing StarCraft 1 and you start to get to a decent level, you need to know the travel distance in between your base and his base and how that relates to making sunken colonies. Because there are spots on maps that 2 players can spawn where, like, literally if Terran leaves his base and you don't have a creep colony already started, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
So the medics are now out. Terran does have the opportunity to try to come out and push through here, and you gotta appreciate when the macro phase kicks in here for Flash, because he is the best macro Terran of all time ever. And I'm not saying that like no one can compare, but it's pretty damn hard to find a Terran that can flow out units the way this guy can. So what Hyun is basically bracing for is an inevitable push. Now, the strength of that push, he doesn't know, but we do, since we're obsing this. But he's actually getting a lot of barracks behind this. Late factory. In fact, I don't believe the factory's been made yet.
No.
So he's going to have a lot of muscle. He's pushing out with this initial amount. The barracks explosion occurs as the Terran pushes out, so that the reinforcements behind this can end up busting down the Zerg if the Zerg's not ready. And that's why those Lings we see are going around. He's going to try to see if he can't catch any reinforcements. Yeah,
this is exactly what you want to be doing at this point in the game as Zerg as well, because Flash knows that there's mutas on the way, right? So he needs to be on the map. He needs to be applying pressure. He doesn't want the third gas to be going.
Oh, this is funny. Is he gonna scan?
I mean, I guess that he could, but he doesn't have range yet for these Marines for sure.
Like, you know what he might have done? He might have just ran over there to see if he could force the drones to move back. I guess the scan comes down there.
Yeah.
And this is just a really easy way to interrupt mining timing.
Looks like just a sunken going to be made here. And
that hurts my eyes seeing those drones on that patch.
No, totally. It'll take a bit, but they'll spread out. Kind of neat to see. You know, and this is one of the reasons why I think. Oh, drop.
Is he gonna drop?
Yeah, he's going to drop because
awesome.
there is a gas base in the middle there, and you get starport pretty late in the current meta of TVZ, so there won't be a dropship right away. And when you have mutas anyways, you can't drop there because the mutas will kill one dropship of units.
This is a great play
this
here.
This is really smart.
And this is a little bit out of the expectations we had here for the Zerg in this game. So Hyun is really playing the map and his opponent here as well. So he's going to tech up immediately to a hive. We just saw it start there. Now, one way to look at Terran versus Zerg is to really keep in mind that there is this constant race towards getting a Defiler.
Yeah.
Because the Defiler is the most powerful unit in this matchup. In case you guys are not familiar with Broodor, it casts Dark Swarm. Anything ranged does not do damage under Dark Swarm. Splash damage does some damage, but but when the Defiler's up, the Zerg has to either try to push through and can stay on Medic Marine, or they have to switch into mech. We'll see what Flash decides to do in a little bit here, but so far, Flash seems to have basically just been playing a pretty modest macro game.
Yeah, he's playing completely standard, but I have to say, like, I talked all this smack about Flash's wrecking this group because he did get the exact group he wanted, but, like, Hyun has so far out-strategized him. He's got a drone at both of those bases, and he made a Spire, against which we see that there is, for instance, like a lot of turrets being made. He's staying on this type of build, right? Just making a lot of bio units. But Hyun rushing to Hive, skipping Lurkers. He's only made one Muta. He went and scouted with the Muta, okay? This was like almost to throw off Flash, and of course you're going to need some Scourge later on, but if he just rushes to Nidus, and he's got double evolution chamber, so he's just going to get upgrades for his ultras and lings, right? Because you're so mineral heavy on this map, having that free mineral only base. So Nidus, some ultras, lots of Zerglings, and Defiler, and suddenly, like, you can't really break these bases. Flash is going to have to take half the map and play a wildly long game to beat Hyun.
And to go off what you're saying, Artos, is what's so cool about this is that he's playing so differently from the other Zergs we've seen. A lot of Zergs do the refugee-style ZVT where they try to eke out a Nidus at another main and have Lurkers hold that position. This is a powering Zerg play. He wants to have a massive army and actually be able to face Flash on head-to-head. And you can see almost Flash was kind of expecting to be, oh, that's cute.
He even has Burrow on the expansions. This is so wild right now. Like,
Flash is not getting to play the game he wanted to, which was trying to engage Lurkers and Mutas and Lings in the middle of the map. Instead, the Zerg is completely powered up. Did get a lot of drones this game. We said that Zergs don't always need to get a lot. They don't, but this time he did. So he's going to have a real macro engine behind in this game. And we can see now Flash goes for double starport. So he's trying to pump out a lot of science vessels. I don't know if we're going to see the mech switch. He may do SK Terran style. Yeah,
I think he will, at least at first. Like, there's just Hyun has an advantage with this strategy that he's chosen against this very normal play from Flash. But he might try to get out a bunch of dropships as well and just control some of these bases, because if you have 4 gases basically for free and a mineral base as Hyun, oh man, like that is, you're going to lose that as Terran if you get those that quickly.
Okay, he's actually losing way too many SCVs over here. Keep in mind, it's very difficult for Flash to actually maneuver all of these control groups of Marines around here. And this is, oh, hold up.
See, this makes sense that he's actually made a
double
bunch of dropships.
Okay, wow. I thought it was science vessels, but that actually does make sense. He needs to unload on that island.
Yeah, he'll definitely go into science vessels after this, but like having a few dropships out are going to help him to actually put some pressure on these bases. You can't really, right now as Hyun, he's played very greedily. You can't have everything at the moment.
Okay, he's coming in.
Oh boy.
We don't see any Scourge here to catch this. I believe the Scourge are actually to the right side of our screen.
Ooh, this is a good move by
Nidus is
Flash.
coming, but it's not up yet. Okay, this is bad. Is he going to look at that drop ship? No. Good control by Flash. Kind of bad control, actually, by Hyun.
Yeah, a little bit of a mess up there for sure.
This is a big misplay here by Hyun. He actually needed to keep the island to have the economics behind him to actually get the army that he wanted to get. But good play by Flash. The way he came in there was really unexpected.
Yeah, that was like kind of a funny angle he flew down at and stuff, and hey, it really works out. 1-1 though, done on these Lings. There's a lot of Defilers, but we already saw Flash added a bunch of Fire Bats in. He knows that Hyun has to be Ling heavy because of that mineral base. So Flash, like, You know, I was just like taking back all my trash talk, but I'm like, well, I guess Flash is just really good, man. Like, you can just do whatever he wants against anything.
Well, keep in mind that the science vessels are going to be a little bit later. The defensive matrix and a radiator are going to be very helpful to the infantry army. If he has enough defilers, he still might be able to engulf this Terran army in melee damage and still push through. But I will say, I think a lot of the wind has been taken out of the sails of Hyun's play.
It has. He does need 3 gases, at least at this point. And the fact that Flash is going to have his 3rd gas kind of before, while Hyun doesn't have one, is quite painful. But he is expanding to that top base. He has drops and speed on his overlords, so he still has a lot of things he can do. And in fact, loading up those defilers and lings, we might see a drop into the main base that is incredibly hard for Flash to deal with. Like, he's going to lose a lot of buildings to it.
Now, see the 2 drones in each main? He might try to make hatches at both and then just see which one actually manages to stick. And this might sound like it's bad or inefficient, but it's actually not in Brood War because everybody's so taxed as far as multitasking. Now, Terran is pushing over here to the upper left. Good catch here on the dropship. I don't believe he's not getting lurkers at all, really. So sometimes you can hold the ramp if you have like 4 or 5 lurkers up here. But this expansion is going to get pushed over.
I like that he skipped the lurkers overall, to be honest. Like, just with that extra mineral base and getting the double evolution chamber rather quickly, Ling Ultra is going to do very, very well. Ultra is not as strong as they are in StarCraft 2, but they're a lot smaller, so you can get more of them surface area-wise on the bio, and they're very good against bio.
The Ultras behave a little bit more like Brood War Zerglings in this game, and the way that they engage, they can really get in there. It's kind of hard to outmaneuver them. But this is a huge drop into the main. Now, keep in mind, the majority of the army for Flash is not over here to defend and is actually trying to push out. Flash may try to do a counterattack.
And with the lateness of those science vessels that you were talking about, Tasteless, very, very tough for him to actually eliminate the defilers in here.
Right. Now, these are Lings with Adrenal. Now, see, the Marines cannot do anything against that. The island, by the way, at the top center was also reclaimed. Flash really on top of the map control here. Now, the Firebats are going to come in. Very good plague there. So that drops their HP to 1, which also bleeds out all the medic energy.
That's right. It's really annoying. Okay, now that is the Eraser. Finally, we get to end up seeing one. The splash damage from these Irradiates will slaughter all these Zerglings pretty quickly, but also it'll kill SCVs, Marines, anything like that. You have to micro it pretty intensively as well to stay on top of everything. Yeah,
keep in mind that, guys, the science vessels don't take any damage from the Irradiate because they're mechanical units, but it can hurt the bio units for sure. Now, this drop that came in here, I want to point out how cost-efficient this is.
It was crazy.
For the Zerg. The Lings are so expendable, and so much of the economy has been devastated. And check this out. Hyun tried to sneak a hatch up and a Nidus up here to try to secure the upper right main, and it actually got spotted, which is pretty crazy because we rarely ever see that in a ZVT, but that was a great play by him.
Yeah, this is like a really clever, cool thing that we saw. Like, you need creep to build the Nidus on. And so he had to make the hatchery as well. And Hyun right now has to just be like, oh my god, how are you actually stomping out everything I'm doing?
And this is very hard for the Terran, by the way, guys, to take on a map this big with this many expansions. But so far, so good. It looks like he wants to directly try to counter the drops by just having an army underneath that.
Yeah, and that's like pretty good, but these Ultras really wreck Firebats. Firebats have concussive damage, so they do very little against Ultras. Also, Firebat attack is actually a ranged attack, but it does splash
damage.
So it can work under Darkstorm. It just doesn't do that much. And when it already doesn't do that much, and then it does almost nothing against Ultras, it's like Ultras under Storm, you need like 450 Firebats to kill a full armored Ultralisk under that.
It's actually crazy with both Protoss and Terran, when they have to deal with Dark Swarm, it's incredible what a nightmare it is. Okay, so nice Irradiate's going down. So he irradiates the Ultras. You want to set the Ultras on hold position.
Radiate does not kill an Ultralisk by itself.
That's right.
It will damage it a lot. It'll make all the Lings explode and stuff. And actually, you got to be careful at times. Like, an irradiated Ultralisk kills bio even faster. Anyways.
Good save there. Keeps the Defiler up.
Yeah, nice
he's got to watch out for the Firebats, of course. So the rest of this army should try to spill in here. Even though it doesn't seem, probably to the casual observer, that this is actually doing that much to the Terran, you have to understand how hard it is for the Terran to move their army and try to defend this. When is Hyun going to be able to get back out on the map? I mean, all the dropships have been cleaned up. Hyun is not stopping and expanding. In fact, he's been doing a really good job.
Yeah, he's continuing it. And look at the mini-map at this point. These drops, Flash is trying to counter them by keeping his army as main base, which means 0 map control. Yeah, he has 4 bases, and his macro is still really good. But Hyun is able to take more bases right now. He's expanding during all this, and these drops are being pretty cost efficient.
Really good placement there. The one fire bat,
yeah, that's a super
with the Marines
good
back here. This is exactly how you want to try to play against a Zerg that's going for this much map dominance. He has to have all these positions secured with small little armies. Now, Flash is not going to stop making science vessels this entire game, so we might have a moment where there's a dozen science vessels flying around.
And speaking of which, that means that we should be seeing a bit more Scourge popping up here pretty quickly. Like, if you can start to pick off some of these science vessels, you lose too many of those as Terran, and you're just going to end up losing to Defiler Tech.
That's right. And so what the science vessels want to do is move out and try to irradiate all of the Ultralisks and Defilers, and occasionally you'll see a Mutaclump get irradiated, probably not at this phase of the game. And, of course, you can use Defensive Matrix to try to combat any Zerg army. But at the same time, though, the Zerg is going to be flying around with Scourge, as Artosa said, and you're going to try to take those out whenever they're not under the army. So a lot of times the Marines, medics, and firebats have to escort the science vessels around.
Exactly. So anytime that the science vessels get too far out in front or anything like that, you can pick them off with Scourge. You got to be really quick about it. But look at Flash. Like, he's killing the top left before there's any drones mining. Oh, God, a huge eraser going to be coming in.
This is a great play, but it's also risky. If Scourge come out here,
sick,
nice response.
Sick counter burrow.
That was a really great play. Now, he needs to decide if he's going to stay here and try to do more damage, because Scourge are coming in.
Well, I mean, he lost a couple science vessels, and there were some good burrows there, but Flash continues to take down bases left and or right. It's kind of crazy that he's staying on top of all this. Another attack into that main base, but more science vessels are falling, so Hyun is not out of this yet.
So, basically, Flash has stayed with SK Terran this entire game, but note that Hyun did manage to reacquire that base at the bottom center, and that was not really a base that was mined that much up. Well, hold up. This actually might be one of the game-deciding moments. Hyun has to keep this base alive. That Nidus does not have a lot of HP. It's getting targeted down now.
Well, you're definitely right about that, Tasteless. That is a game-defining moment. Hyun has been fighting very well on so few bases, but to lose that one once again, he's still mining. He should still remain in the game and try to get something done, but the amount that he needs a third gas, again, I cannot overstate.
Yeah, it seems like Flash has managed to outgrow Hyun at this state, and of course Zerg's always in jeopardy if they don't have more bases than their opponent. That's just a fundamental rule of StarCraft, whatever iteration of StarCraft you're talking about, by the way.
And Flash has had one base up on Hyun mining for like, what, 7 minutes or something crazy like that?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a testament to the strength of Hyun and the strategy he's chosen here, that he is still in this game fighting. So this is the bug thing that happens when you irradiate ultras and stuff like that. They damage everything, and they're taking damage, so they try to run from it.
Yeah,
but it's like,
so
they are the damage.
So you have to actually grab them and try to get them to stay in place, or they can end up running through your base, and you're losing workers and everything. So the style that Flash has elected to use this game is one that's a lot more of an older school style in TVZ. He basically is just trying to continue to stamp out bases on the map and grow at a very slow rate. And eventually Zerg runs out of resources, and Terran either goes for the kill or the Zerg taps out.
Yeah, and just to make this perfectly clear, as far as strategies go for Terran, this is the most APM-intensive thing that you can do in the game as Terran.
I think it's actually just in the game, period.
It might be just in the game, period. Like, I would say that harassing with 2 groups of mutas is pretty damn up there, but that we almost never see. SK Terran, on the other hand, like, you have so many groups of bio, and you have to be utilizing your science vessels nonstop.
Yeah,
and there's not smart casting, so each one you have to click on for every single spell. So, the amount of speed that you have to use for this strategy actually prevents a lot of people from doing it.
Yeah, that's correct. It's one of the most taxing and demanding things in StarCraft is playing this style. But Flash is doing it, and he's doing it brilliantly right here. I think Hyun's last hope is to try to secure the center-left base. In some ways, Hyun's having not as much of a bad time in late game because he keeps losing bases, so at least he can expand close to himself. You know what I'm saying?
I like it, yeah.
I'm like, well, that island's still there. If you reclaim that, you know, that's just next to your main.
The base is half full of drones, according to Tasteless. Jeez, that's like...
So, Flash also is eventually going to run out of resources, and that's something that Hyun is definitely keeping in mind here. Eventually, Flash will have to take the upper right, and that's much easier for Zerg to try to take out than the center right base.
Also, by the way, Flash is up at 3-2 upgrades, which is really fantastic, but Hyun stopped at 2-2. This can happen just because, again, no third gas. If he had a third gas for any amount of time, I'm sure he'd have 3-3. But instead, Flash is doing well upgrade-wise. Ooh.
That was a good catch.
That's always the best feeling. You see a group of Scourge getting your radiate.
That's it. GG. Hyun wins, or rather, excuse me, Flash wins. What am I talking about? Flash wins game number 1. But I got to say, Hyun had a really good showing.
Yeah, Hyun had a really nice strategy picked out there. He did a good job. The drops of Flash, like the first double drop, and the fact that he found every hatchery every time. Like the hidden hatch with the Nidus next to him, like really Flash?
I know.
Like seriously?
Like when I saw him hiding that hatch up there, I'm like, okay, I guess he will get the upper right main, and we'll be into a very long ZBT. But Flash really was on top of everything. Also, I think Hyun losing that island at the start of that was really the point where Hyun lost.